how's it going? I am Laser Dude, and I am doing another ranked series where we look at every movie in a franchise and rank them whether we feel they are the best of the franchise, worst of the franchise, somewhere down the road, somewhere in the middle. That is what we're looking at today, and the Harry Potter movies are the first thing we're looking at, and this is going to be an interesting one because for me, this is my first time watching any of these movies. I saw one of them kind of half watching when I worked at a TV station and it was on, but I kind of didn't want to pay attention because it was fifth or sixth in the franchise and I didn't really want to spoil it for me. But since then, I actually did read all the books. I read it in, I was doing some respite work, and there was this one kid that I was reading him those books. And so even when after that was done, I finished up and read all of the books. So this is the first time I've really had in a while a movie that I've actually read the books first and I'm moving in and seeing it. Now, this is not very fresh in my mind. It's not like I just got finished reading the books. It's still a little muddled in there, so I might not remember all the details 100%, especially since I only read through it once. But, yeah, it should be interesting. So let's start with The Philosopher's Stone. So, this was an interesting one for me. I guess because I knew how big the Harry Potter franchise was, I was actually a little bit blown away by how weak this was. Not necessarily it's saying it's not a good adaptation or there aren't good things about it, but the effects, man, wow, are the effects not great. Especially with, the people-type characters. Whenever they need to show the characters moving fast with their magic, their limbs are so rubbery and bending all over like a Looney Tunes character. It's downright laughable, some of the effect scenes. And not to say that they're all bad. Whenever they actually use practical effects, those scenes are actually really good. And we'll get into them as I go through the best and worst. But my reaction to this is mostly just one of there's a lot of scenes here that I feel like needed to be tightened up in either pacing or just in the way the actors are being portrayed on the screen. Let me just take the characters one by one. Well, actually, the categories for this time that I'm going through, when I did my X-Men ranked videos, it was best scene, worst scene, best action scene, best quick little moment. I'm going to be keeping best scene, worst scene, best quick little moment, but this isn't really an action franchise. They'll have more action down the road, but it's not really something you can compare in every single movie. So I was thinking, what can I compare, And I was thinking, best magical moment, but I'm like, well, that's probably going to be the same as best scene every single time, so I don't want to do that. So I thought, let's pick an actor from each of the movies and highlight them as the best acting in the movie. So that's what it's going to be. It's best scene, worst scene, best acting, and best quick little moment. Yeah, so for, obviously right now, since I haven't seen any of the other ones, this is number one. It's definitely not going to stay there, and I'm hoping that this is because, let's just say best scene. What is the best scene in the movie? I was really thinking hard about this because there's a lot of this that is actually, I will give it credit, that is staying true to the book of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. It is keeping true to the format in so many different ways, and in fact keeps a lot of scenes that I didn't even necessarily think were necessary, like the whole scene with the dragon. That was it happened and was over and done with so quickly, it was barely even relevant. And I know you might be saying, well, they needed that scene because how else would they realize that they're, Quirrell or Snape, who they think is Snape, is after the, to know how to get rid of Fluffy. Now, yeah, but I feel like you could have written around that. So really, it maybe just things I feel like, Harry Potter's, at least the early books, were not really well suited to becoming a movie because there's just a lot of kids going through this magical world and trying his best to learn and understand about it. And while that's great for a book, for a movie, it's just a lot of meandering and going from one little thing to another and not a lot of pace or setup or storytelling being told into it. In fact, I kind of wish we got to learn a little bit more about Harry before we're just thrown into his life's, social life. Like, we don't really get to know what type of person he was in this movie. Like, is he timid? Is he brave? Is he like he just is Harry Potter, and there's not really a lot of reason why. Like, I feel like the movie, the book does a really good job of like showing that he has a lot of thoughts about his family situation, but just doesn't see the point in doing anything. Here we're just thrown right into it, and he doesn't really get to say anything, and then we're right at the zoo. We don't really get a chance to know him in his situation. But I understand, because you want to get to the magical world as quick as possible. Don't want to spend time dwelling on the Dursleys all that much. But then even that, I think they should have changed scenes around. Like, the whole letters thing, was that really needed to happen the exact same way? Because I feel like if you just had Hagrid turn up at his house instead of the lighthouse, which feels like out of the blue, it's like, alright, we're leaving. Next thing, you're in a lighthouse in the middle of the ocean. It's like, what on earth? How did that happen? That doesn't make any sense to me. So I feel like there was a lot of pressure to stay as true to the books as possible, and I feel like some things you could just be like, alright, let's just cut that out, get rid of that, and sort of to make way for character development. But I understand it's the first of the franchise. So let's go into what is the best scene in the movie. For me, I actually think it's the chess sequence. Because in the chess sequence, when, they're moving their way through the board and everything, and Ron is directing them, that is mostly all practical effects, and those, knights and chess pieces actually look really cool. I like when they start walking forward, and all the pawns, drop their swords, and they're like, okay, we gotta play this game. It seems a little, weird, but, since it was mostly practical effects, it didn't have that rubbery feeling, and the pieces actually felt like they were menacing, and you were worried for the situation that they were in, because they didn't feel invincible, because they were actually there. So I did enjoy that sequence. For the worst scene in the movie, I don't have a specific one, I kind of do, but almost any scene where they need to use human CGI animation, because oh boy, it is bad. It's so rubbery, and I know I kind of said that, but the worst one, and this is what I'm pointing out as the worst part of the scene, is the centaur. That thing looked absolutely horrible. And my wife was being annoyed with me because I kept on interrupting and pointing out different things I thought were just weird, or why did they do it that way. And but that scene, I was just like, that is really bad animation. And and I looked up Lord of the Rings. I'm like, Lord of the Rings in this movie came out the exact same year. And she's like, yeah, but Lord of the Rings did a lot of practical stuff. They didn't have a whole lot of special effects. And I thought, well, that's true. Then I thought, wait a minute, that's not true. They had the cave troll and the the Balrog, so those were big CGI things, and while they don't necessarily look seamless in the world, they looked real enough, and I felt that they were real. And maybe if I was a kid and seeing this for the first time, I wouldn't have pointed it out then, or wouldn't have felt it was terrible. But seeing this, I was like, oh boy, this centaur looks really, really bad. Maybe I was also just thinking of the centaurs from Narnia and how good those look in compared to this, but that was a few years after, although I don't think it was that many years after. Either way, probably bigger budget. I'm sure the next one will have a whole lot better special effects, and I'm looking forward to. So yeah, worst scene, I will say the CGI centaurs, it just looks really, really terrible. And that whole scene is just weird in general. I don't know, Harry's, I'm going to talk about the best actors in a second, who I thought did the best acting in the movie, but I gotta say, Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe was not great in this movie. Not to say that he was terrible, his facial expressions are really good. Whenever he needs to smile, his face lights up and everything. It's actually his posture. There's a lot of scenes where he's just standing there and his posture is very relaxed and everything. There's the scene where in the end with Quirrell and he lets the thing on fire. He's like, Harry, come here! And he's just standing there okay. There's not a lot of fear or hesitation in his movements. So, I mean, he was a kid, I don't want to put too much blame on him. But I feel like the other two, Emma Stone and Hey, I'm Lazy Dude from the editing room. I just want to let you know that even though obviously that's Emma Watson, not Emma Stone, I will get it right eventually. You just got to be patient with me getting it very, very wrong very, very many times for a little bit. But don't worry, I will feel like an idiot momentarily. Emma Stone and Rupert Grint, I feel like their characters were just like a lot more right from the start, captured their characters a lot better. Especially, I'll say the best performance in this film I'm giving to Emma Stone. Just because, and I hope this isn't a thing where I just give it to her every movie, but I feel like just her acting right from the top, she totally gets Hermione's characters and personality, really expressing it from the top. I'd say Rupert would be a close second. I feel like there's just a lot of characters that didn't get a lot of screen time. Like, I feel like there was barely any scenes with Snape, so you didn't even really dislike him all that much, where I feel like the book really gets enough of him right in your face right at the beginning, so you really don't like him from the jump. Where here, he just has like one quick scene where he like says something about,
Honey,
Yes?
Emma Stone isn't in that movie.
Emma Watson. Right. Emma Watson.
I was connected to my phone, but I was going to come and tell you sooner.
Right.
Sorry.
That's okay. So, I've been saying the wrong Emma this entire time. My wife has just informed me. I'm not going to go back and edit it out. It's Emma Watson, obviously. Bedoy, Emma Stone is a different Emma. So, yeah. Anyway, what I was saying is, there's a lot of characters that we actually didn't really even get to show at all. Like, Neville. Like, we get one scene where, Neville's looking for his toad, and then he finds his toad, and then he's standing up to Hermione in the game, but we have no scene with them actually, really interacting with each other, or, working off of each other. And I get that there's just a lot to go through, but I feel like you could have structured it where at least he had more of a presence with our characters, so it was like in the end when Dumbledore's like, it takes a lot to stand up to your friends. It's like, friends, we haven't even seen them talk to each other once. Come on, man. But yeah, best performance, Emma Watson. I feel like just her character flies off of from the books to right to her. It just really works really, really well. Now, for best quick scene, I was thinking about this. I don't really necessarily have one. The only one that really kind of stands out in my mind is when he says, I can't remember the entire details, but Hermione, I think Hermione says something, and Ron repeats it in shock, and she explains what it is, and he's like, I know what it means. I'll have to look that up. I can't remember exactly what it. But that's this a quick little good moment between the characters. I enjoyed that. In the end, I think that this is probably going to be very low on my list of the Harry Potter movies, but I think the book itself would probably be very low because it's more of just of a setup, if more than anything. It doesn't really have too much substance to it other than setting up the world and living in it. And we'll see if the other ones, I think by the third or fourth book, I think by then it'll probably be the plot lines devised more that will be more fitting towards movies, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't know. I like this because I don't, sometimes I come into a movie franchise and I have expectations where I know where the general consensus is on everything. This one I don't have anything. So maybe people could be like, you're crazy. That's what you think? Yeah, it is what I think on my first reaction to this franchise and to the movies that they were made. So we'll have to see how it all turns out, and maybe next time I'll say Emma Watson instead of Emma Stone. Boy, that was embarrassing. I don't remember the spell for erasing memories, but so I won't say it. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Be sure to check out some of these other videos on my channel. And wait for more coming soon.